My name is Rachel Bennett, and I'm 31 years old. I was standing in the lobby of a law firm in downtown Seattle, rain streaking down the glass windows, when my entire life changed. Mr. Harrison, my grandmother's attorney, had just finished reading her will. She left me everything: the beach house in Malibu, the apartment in Manhattan, and $12 million in cash and investments. I called my mother first, hands trembling with disbelief. Her voice came through flat, almost hostile. "Well, isn't that convenient? You always were her favorite." Before I could respond, she hung up. I tried my father next. His response was even colder. "Your grandmother made her choice. Don't expect us to pretend we're happy about it." The line went dead. My older sister was last. I thought maybe she'd understand. Maybe she'd be different. But when I told her the news, she laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that made my stomach turn. "Congratulations, Rachel. Enjoy it while you can. Things have a way of disappearing." Click. I stood there in that marble lobby, surrounded by strangers in expensive suits, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. My grandmother had passed away 2 weeks ago. I'd spent every weekend for the past 3 years caring for her, driving 4 hours each way to her home in Portland while she battled cancer. I'd held her hand when the treatments failed. I'd been there when she took her last breath. Where was my family? Nowhere. Not a single visit. Not one phone call to check on her. That's why she left everything to me. She told me so herself, in her final days. "You're the only one who showed up, Rachel. The only one who loved me enough to be here." I walked out of that law firm into the Seattle rain, their cruel words echoing in my head. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I felt sick. I got into my car and started driving toward my apartment, wipers slapping against the windshield. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. "Mom says you should share. It's only fair." I didn't respond. I couldn't. The audacity of it made my hands shake on the steering wheel. That's when I saw the headlights. A black SUV came out of nowhere, running a red light and slamming into the driver's side of my car. Glass exploded. Metal screamed. My body twisted against the seatbelt as the world spun and then went dark. I woke up 3 days later in Harborview Medical Center. My left arm was in a cast. My ribs were wrapped tight with bandages. A machine beeped steadily beside me, measuring a heartbeat that felt too weak to be mine. The room was empty. No flowers. No cards. No family waiting by my bedside. I pressed the call button, and a nurse appeared. Her name tag said Diana. She had kind eyes and gentle hands as she checked my vitals. "Has anyone come to see me?" I asked, my voice cracking. Diana hesitated. "Your sister stopped by yesterday. She asked about your belongings, wanted to know where your purse was kept." She paused, something flickering in her expression. I told her it was locked in the hospital safe. She didn't seem happy about that. "My purse, where I kept my phone, my wallet, my documents, including the copy of my grandmother's will that Mr. Harrison had given me." "Did she take anything?" I asked. Diana shook her head. "She couldn't. Hospital policy. But she did ask a lot of questions about your condition." "Medical questions." Another pause. "She wanted to know if there was any chance you might not wake up." The words hit me like a second collision. My own sister, asking if I might die. I asked Diana to bring me the hospital phone. My fingers trembled as I dialed Mr. Harrison's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice tight with concern. "Rachel, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. There's been suspicious activity on your accounts." My blood ran cold. "What kind of activity?" "Someone attempted to access your grandmother's estate funds. They had documents claiming to be your power of attorney. The signature was close to yours, but our fraud department caught it." He paused. "Rachel, the documents were submitted from a notary office in Tacoma, the same city where your sister lives." I closed my eyes, pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. The cold phone calls. My sister's strange comment about things disappearing. Her questions about whether I'd survive. "There's more," Mr. Harrison continued. "A man called my office this morning, claiming to be your husband. He said you'd authorized him to manage your inheritance while you were incapacitated. He got aggressive when my assistant said we needed to verify his identity." "Husband," I didn't have a husband. I'd been single for 2 years, ever since I caught my ex-boyfriend cheating and ended things. Did he give a name? I asked. Marcus Webb. The name meant nothing to me, but the chill spreading through my chest told me it meant everything. I spent the next 3 days in that hospital bed, pretending to be weaker than I was. Diana became my ally, quietly gathering information while I planned my next move. She told me my sister had called the hospital twice, asking about my prognosis. She'd also requested access to my medical records, claiming she needed them for insurance purposes. Diana had denied her both times. On the fourth day, I got a laptop from Diana and started digging. I searched my sister's social media, scrolling through photos I hadn't seen in months, and there he was, Marcus Webb, in photo after photo with my sister, tagged as her boyfriend. Beach vacations, fancy dinners, a post from 6 months ago showing off an engagement ring with the caption, "She said yes." My sister was engaged, and she'd never told me. I kept scrolling, my stomach turning. In older photos, I found something that made me stop breathing. Marcus Webb, 3 years ago, at a bar in downtown Portland. The same bar where I used to stop for coffee on my way to visit my grandmother. I recognized his face now. We'd talked a few times, brief conversations while waiting for our orders. He'd been charming, asked for my number once. I'd declined because I was still with my ex at the time. But I remembered something else. Something that made my hands go cold. He'd asked about my grandmother. Casual questions that I'd thought nothing of at the time. That's a long drive just to visit family. She must be someone special. And later, old houses like that must be worth a fortune these days. He'd been fishing, even back then, before he ever met my sister. He'd been gathering information about my family's wealth. I called Mr. Harrison again. "I need you to run a background check on Marcus Webb. Everything you can find." The results came back the next morning. Marcus Webb had a history of fraud. 2 ex-wives, both of whom had filed complaints about missing money and forged signatures. A civil lawsuit from a former business partner, and a criminal record that included identity theft and check fraud, though the charges had been dropped due to insufficient evidence. My sister hadn't just gotten engaged to a con man. She'd gotten engaged to a professional one. I discharged myself from the hospital that afternoon, against medical advice. Diana helped me slip out a side entrance to avoid any unwanted visitors. I checked into a hotel downtown under a fake name and called my grandmother's attorney. "I need you to freeze everything," I said. "The accounts, the properties, all of it. Nobody gets access except me." "Already done," Mr. Harrison replied. "And Rachel, the police want to talk to you. That SUV that hit you? They found it abandoned in a parking garage in Tacoma. Stolen plates, but the traffic cameras caught the driver's face." He paused. "They're working on an ID now." 3 days later, I was sitting in a conference room at the Seattle Police Department. Detective Sarah Chen spread photographs across the table. The SUV, the driver's face, blurry but visible through the windshield. Traffic camera footage showing the vehicle running the red light, heading straight for my car. "We identified him," Detective Chen said. "His name is Victor Reyes. He's got priors for assault and illegal firearms possession. And 3 days ago, we found $20,000 in cash in his apartment." She slid another photo toward me. Along with this, it was a burner phone, and on its screen, a text conversation. "Target Drive silver Honda Civic, license plate WA7X3K19. Make it look like an accident. Half now, half when it's done." The number was blocked, untraceable, but I didn't need to trace it. I knew exactly who had sent those messages. "We don't have enough to arrest anyone yet," Detective Chen admitted, "but we're building a case. The money in his apartment matches a withdrawal from an account belonging to a Marcus Webb." I felt the rage building in my chest, cold and sharp. My sister and her fiancé had paid someone to kill me, and they'd used my grandmother's money to do it. That's when I decided to stop hiding. I called my sister that night, keeping my voice weak and trembling. "I'm still in the hospital," I lied. "The doctors say I might need surgery. I'm scared, and I don't want to be alone. Can you come see me?" Her response was sugar-sweet, dripping with fake concern. "Of course, honey. I'll be there tomorrow. We should talk about the inheritance, too. You shouldn't be dealing with that stress while you're recovering." I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. The next morning, I met with Mr. Harrison and Detective Chen at my hotel. We went over the plan 3 times, making sure every detail was perfect. Then I made one more call. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. "Rachel? Your sister said you were still in critical condition." "I'm fine, Mom. Better than fine, actually. I'm ready to talk about grandmother's will." I paused, letting the words sink in. "I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe it isn't fair that I got everything. Maybe we should discuss splitting the inheritance. All of us, as a family." The change in her voice was immediate. Warm, suddenly interested. "That's very mature of you, Rachel. When can we meet?" "Tonight. There's a restaurant in Bellevue, the Metropolitan. I've booked a private room, 7 o'clock. I could almost hear her salivating. "We'll be there." That evening, I arrived at the restaurant early. The private room was elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. Mr. Harrison sat beside me, a folder of documents spread across the table. Detective Chen and 2 officers waited in a car outside, listening through the wire I wore under my blouse. My family arrived together. My mother came first, wearing her best pearls. My father followed, hands in his pockets, eyes already calculating. My sister walked in last, arm linked with Marcus Webb. The moment I saw him, my blood turned to ice. Up close, he was handsome in a slick, practiced way. But his eyes were cold, predatory. "Rachel," my sister cooed, rushing over to hug me. "You look so much better than I expected. The hospital said you were in terrible shape." "I recovered quickly," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Please, sit down. We have a lot to discuss." They settled around the table, and I watched them exchange glances. Hungry glances. They thought they'd won. I slid a document across the table. "Before we discuss the inheritance, I need you to sign this. It's a standard disclosure form, confirming that any agreement we make tonight is entered into freely and without coercion." My mother barely glanced at it before signing. My father followed. My sister hesitated, but Marcus nudged her, and she scribbled her name. Marcus reached for the pen, but I stopped him. "Actually, I have a question first." I turned to face him directly. "How long have you been planning this?" His smile flickered. "Planning what?" "The con." I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. The background check displayed on screen. 2 ex-wives, fraud charges, a pattern of targeting women with money. I looked at my sister. "Did you know who you were marrying? Or did he fool you too?" My sister's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the $20,000 you transferred to Victor Reyes. I'm talking about the forged power of attorney documents you submitted to my grandmother's attorney. I'm talking about the fact that you paid someone to run me off the road and kill me." The table erupted. My mother started shouting. My father tried to stand. Marcus grabbed my sister's arm, pulling her toward the door. But the door was already opening. Detective Chen stepped through, badge raised, 2 officers behind her. "Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and identity theft." She nodded to the officers. "Cuff him." Marcus struggled, his charm evaporating into panic. "This is a setup. She's lying." "We have the texts," Detective Chen said calmly. "We have the money trail. And we have Victor Reyes's testimony. He made a deal this afternoon, told us everything about who hired him and why." My sister started screaming. "It wasn't my idea," Marcus said. "We'd just scare her, make her sign over the money. I didn't know he was going to actually hurt her." "You knew," I said quietly. "You asked the hospital if I was going to wake up. You went through my purse looking for documents. You've been planning this since the moment grandmother's will was read." Detective Chen stepped toward my sister. "Jennifer Bennett, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and fraud." The officers moved in, and I watched as my sister was handcuffed, her designer dress wrinkling, her perfect makeup running with tears. Marcus was already being let out, still protesting his innocence to anyone who would listen. But we weren't done. I turned to my parents, who sat frozen in their chairs. "You didn't plan the attack, but you knew something was happening, didn't you?" The fake power of attorney documents required a family member's verification. Someone had to confirm that I'd authorized Marcus to act on my behalf. My mother's face crumpled. "We didn't know they were going to hurt you. They said it was just paperwork, a formality to help manage the estate while you recovered." while I recovered from an accident that they caused. My father tried to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not remorse. Fear. Detective Chen looked at me. "Do you want to press charges?" I'd thought about this moment for days. Part of me wanted to see them let out in handcuffs too. Wanted to watch their faces as they realized what they'd thrown away. But looking at them now, I saw something worse than criminals. I saw people so consumed by greed that they'd abandoned their own daughter. People so hollow that they'd traded family for money. Prison would be too easy. "No charges," I said. "But I want them to know something." I stood up, ignoring the pain in my ribs, and looked at my parents directly. "Grandmother left me everything because I was the only one who showed up. While you were busy resenting her for not dying faster, I was holding her hand through chemotherapy. While you were calculating what you might inherit, I was reading her favorite books out loud because her eyes were too tired to read. She knew exactly who each of you was, and she made her choice." My mother started crying. My father stared at the table. "You won't see a penny of that money. Not now, not ever. And you'll spend the rest of your lives knowing that your own greed cost you your daughter." I gathered my things and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard my mother calling my name, begging me to wait, to listen, to understand. I didn't turn around. Outside, the Seattle night was cold and clear. Detective Chen met me by my car. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "I will be." The trial happened 8 months later. Marcus Webb was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and attempted identity theft. He received 22 years in federal prison. My sister pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testifying against him. She got 7 years. I sat in that courtroom and watched the verdicts come down. My sister looked at me once, just before they led her away. There was no apology in her eyes, only resentment, only blame. Some people never learn. My parents weren't charged with any crime. The evidence wasn't strong enough to prove they knew about the murder plot in advance, but their lives fell apart anyway. My mother's social circle evaporated once word spread about what their daughter had done. My father's business partners distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with a family scandal. Last I heard, they'd moved to a smaller town in Nevada, living off savings that would eventually run out. I never spoke to them again. In the months that followed, I did exactly what my grandmother would have wanted. I sold the Manhattan apartment and used the money to establish a foundation in her name, providing support for cancer patients and their caregivers. I kept the Malibu beach house, spending weekends there watching the sunset and thinking about the woman who had believed in me when no one else did. I started therapy, working through the anger and grief and betrayal that had nearly consumed me. My therapist helped me understand something important. The inheritance hadn't caused my family's cruelty. It had revealed it. They'd always been selfish, always been calculating. The money just brought their true nature into the light. One evening, I was sitting on the deck of that beach house, watching the waves roll in, when I realized something else. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn my family's love, trying to be good enough, kind enough, successful enough to make them proud. But their love was never mine to earn. It was never even real. What was real was the choice I made every day to show up for the people who mattered, to be present, to care. That's why my grandmother chose me. Not because I was special, but because I had shown up when it counted. The money didn't define me. It tested me. And I'd passed. I picked up my phone and looked at a photo I'd saved. My grandmother, smiling in her garden, holding a cup of tea. She'd taken that photo herself, just weeks before she died. She'd texted it to me with a message. "Thank you for being here, Rachel. You're the best thing in my life." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "I miss you, Grandma," I whispered to the empty air. "But I finally understand." The waves kept rolling, steady and constant. And for the first time since that terrible phone call in the law firm lobby, I felt at peace. The lesson I learned isn't complicated, but it took nearly losing my life to understand it. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. And when the people closest to you show you who they really are, believe them. My family chose greed over love. They chose inheritance over loyalty. And in the end, they lost everything. Not because I took it from them, but because they threw it away. I survived not because of the millions I inherited, but because I refused to let their betrayal destroy me. I chose to believe in myself when the people who should have loved me wanted me dead. That's the inheritance that really matters, not the money, the strength to walk away from anyone who doesn't deserve you, even if they share your blood. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible to your own family, if you've ever wondered why your love isn't returned, let me tell you something. It's not your fault. Some people are incapable of love. Some people only see value in what they can take. But you are not what they see. You are what you choose to become. And that choice, that power, belongs only to you.